Welcome to the meeting of Ramsgate Town Council's Finance and General Purposes Committee. Do we have any apologies for it?
We have apologies from Councillors Alban, Crittenden and Makinson, who are at TDC's Planning Committee meeting, and Councillor Hetherington, who has a family commitment.
Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest. Does anybody have any declarations to make?
No. We're all interested. Absolutely.
Thank you. Item 3 is the previous minutes, to approve the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Finance and General Purposes Committee held on the 22nd of January. Are they a true record? Could I have a proposal to accept them? All those in favour?
Long time ago now, January.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is accounts and budgets. 4.1 is a financial comparison of the income and expenditure to the 14th of March 2025.
Thank you, Chair. So we're nearly at the end of the financial year. One thing I'd note is actually at the start of this year, there was a lot of projects carried forward. And actually there's mainly under the town promotion umbrella, and a lot of those have now been finished within the year. We're not going to be carrying forward many projects, approved projects, to next year. One thing with the presentation of the information in front of you, this is an automated report run by our financial software, and if you have a look at the balance column, it makes as a percentage, makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It used to make sense, but something has happened in the software, and the finance officer has raised this with the software provider. So the column on the left, which is the budget and the balance, are correct, but if you're trying to look at the percentage of overspend or underspend, unfortunately those figures don't relate to anything. So if I may, in relation to that, we are looking at new account software, which you have previously approved, but we're finding that it seems that in the industry that everything has an equal amount of praise and criticism, and so trying to find something suitable is proving difficult.
Can I ask, do we know what other councils of our kind of size use, or is there again a wide variety of different systems?
Yeah, the town clerk has done a survey of other councils.
Yeah.
Do you want to comment on that?
And so there's certain, most councils are using something that's been specifically written for councils, as opposed to Sage and QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Some organisations do use Sage. Sage, something like Sage is good because when you're looking for when you're looking for finance staff in the future, finding someone with knowledge of Sage is easier than Realtus, Scribe, Advantage, the things that are specifically written for town councils. But we're finding that trying to speak to the larger councils, they seem to have equal criticism of all available software packages.
Right.
So it's considering, do we try and make things better with the company that we're currently using? One of the main problems what you're looking at is that there's lots of budgets which actually we haven't used for years, but they still appear on the reports. And you can't delete them because then you end up deleting records from previous years, but you are unable to hide them. So whereas actually our budget headings are quite concise and simple, but you're looking at 10 years worth of obsolete budgets as well.
Do we need to approve the
I think if you could note them,
If you
please.
could just note that report.
Can I just ask, Laura, does it make sense to you?
Yes.
But that's all right.
It's, that particular column has always been a very useful one to me. You can see immediately whether a budget is overspent or underspent as you go through the year. But so we do want to get it back.
Yes.
4.2, financial statement, cash book to the 14th of March. Any comment on that?
Only as much as I don't think the layout's particularly good, but the content is hopefully quite self-explanatory. Obviously, if you have got any questions about the budget headings or the content, please do let me know.
It was fine, it made sense. Added up.
6 copies. That,
Oh, I think it's just that many pages long.
thank you. All right, so we note the cash book as well. Thank you. Next item is item 5 on the agenda, grant procedure. Receive a note of the grants awarded 2004-25 and also, as resolved by the council, we are to consider the success of the grant scrutiny panel and whether the panel should continue. The division of the grant budget throughout the year should also be considered by the committee. Would you like to take us through that?
Thank you, Chair. So, first of all, there's a report for noting, and that's just a list of grants that you've awarded throughout the year. This was information that you've requested the last couple of years, and I'm not expecting there to be scrutiny of the content. This is more for your information. But actually, in relation to the next agenda item, it's quite interesting to look at the column for grant scrutiny panel recommendations, and it's to try and demonstrate that actually by and large what the grant scrutiny panel recommends is what the council's deciding, which suggests that the council is putting weight into and support into the grant scrutiny panel. So this report is, in the first instance, is for noting, please, Chair.
What, just to note,
Yeah.
to note the list, yeah.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And a year ago, a new grant policy was put in place, which clarified and filled in a few gaps that hadn't been prescribed before. And two of the significant changes was the introduction of a grant scrutiny panel and also the allocation of grants, the events grant and the Ramsgate fund at 25% per quarter. The intention being to try and encourage events and activities and things to be taking place throughout the year, whereas previously there'd been a tendency for all of the budgets to be exhausted on spring and summer activities, and then you get to the autumn and the winter and there's no funding left. So it's, first of all, is the grant scrutiny panel working well? Would you like it to continue? Is there any amendments that you think need to be made? Is the allocation of funding equally throughout the quarters of the year working well? Is that appropriate? And then anything else in the within the policy that you think needs amending?
If I could comment, I mean, I'm greatly reassured through the grant scrutiny panel that we are really looking at the grants that we give and giving them due weight and attention. So I'm in favour of having the grant scrutiny panel.
Can I ask David how many on that scrutiny panel?
I think there's four of them.
Four people.
I think it's Councillor Moore as the mayor, Councillor Nixie, Councillor Heatherton, and I think you're on it, aren't you?
I'm on.
Yeah. Yeah,
Councillor Driver was before me, do you?
Councillor Driver.
That's right. For me, actually, it's actually two-sided for me, because in one side, I think it takes away power from the General Council, and it just feels as though we're supposed to nod through what they recommend, but on the other hand, obviously they look into things a lot more closely than we do, and so that's good. But I think, I don't know, I do feel as though I just nod through things when it comes to a council, whereas normally I wouldn't, but that's no big deal.
Yeah. Councillor Rusty.
I'm grateful to the Grant Scrutiny panel. I think they do some really good work, and very pleased that somebody is going through stuff in this detail, as you said, Chair. Talking to grant recipients and people who've applied successfully and unsuccessfully along the way, I wonder whether we should bear in mind what we had before, which was lots of applications in the spring and summer, and maybe look to put a bit more weighting onto those months, because those are the times that more events happen. And then perhaps, so change the 25% division in some way that reflects the fact that actually we do get a hell of a lot more things going on, particularly over the summer. The other thing I wondered, and I heard this suggested from another council, is whether it would be worth our while offering a very small grant pot, a pot of, say, apply for this as up to £500 for your small group, your scout troop or whatever, something like that. Small grants that would not, as it were, mess up the larger consideration, but could make a real difference to some very small community groups. So those are my two pennies.
Councillor Young.
I'm wondering, do we still have the same process, for checking where the money has gone and how it's been spent? Because it was 3 different references, wasn't it, for a price for something?
Yes.
We do,
And I wondered whether, sometimes do we ever go back and look at what they've spent it on?
They have to provide receipts and evidence for how the money's been used, which is cross-referenced against the original grant application.
Do we ever check that?
When you say we don't as a committee,
No.
but the officers do.
I know.
All groups can ask for funding, aren't they? Small or large. It's up to them. I mean, we've been pretty good over many years. It's up to them. But they have to do the criteria, like Councillor Young just said. Make sure they spend it on what they want. Otherwise they have to pay it back.
Yeah. Councillor Rustin, did you have in mind a different...
I can't quite work out how the sums would go, but I wonder whether perhaps at least the summer period should have a rather...
Yeah, I understand that, but the business of a small grants fund.
Yes, I was just wondering whether we could earmark a modest sum, say £5,000, to give out 10 small grants or something like that from within one of our grant pots.
We do have our members grant.
Yes, I know. I was thinking about something that was a little bit more substantial than that, but not as big as a big application.
Do you want to comment on that?
So if a new pot of money was to be found,
Yeah.
I'll have to go away and kind of write some terms of reference, consider where that could come from. So yes, that could be a course of action. Or you could look at, within the existing grants, do you want to put change the finances? So for example, Ramsgate Fund, you can apply for a maximum of 3,500. Do you want to change that to 500 per applicant.
No, I was thinking more about having something, but it might be that change the Ramsgate fund to 3,000 per applicant and use the remaining £500 to allocate as a small grants fund for people, for the sorts of little organisations that struggle with the paperwork, but that would really benefit from a few £100.
David,
Yes.
I think the only problem with that is, would be taking the money away from the bigger summer events. Because that's the best time. Holidays, August, not.
Yes, that's why I was suggesting that.
Not disagreeing, but.
No, I was suggesting weighting things to the summer for
If you've got
precisely
a
that.
pot of money.
But that's the events, that's not the Ramsgate fund.
Are you suggesting that just for the Ramsgate?
I haven't really thought where it would sit. I just wanted to float the idea that it might be a useful thing for us to consider.
Have you come across anybody?
I've come across a couple of other councils that offer a very small grant pot. They may not offer other things that we offer, but that offer that to community groups.
May I?
Yeah.
I don't know whether this is something that is done elsewhere, but if there's small amounts that are delegated to the officers, it would be something I'd worry about. I wouldn't like to be trying to make any decisions myself about,
No, I was
one recipient or another.
I was thinking about it being, as it were, a separate sort of a fund within our grant funding regime.
Something I could go away and work up on.
That's something less complicated than the
Yes,
procedure.
less complicated, something where you can have a sort of single sheet of A4. It wouldn't necessarily need to go to the grants committee who've already got enough to do. It could just come through to council and council could say yes, no.
And how would these smaller groups know about this?
We would publicise it in the ad mag and the website and all of that.
We do anyway.
And our social media, which seems to get quite a lot of attention these days.
Well, let's.
And we promoted all councillors, I guess, as well.
Just reflecting back on what Councillor Austin mentioned about the percentage split over the year of the funds, can we look at what applications have come in and if there are any, is there a need for us to change it and in which area, which time of the year it needs to be changed? I suppose look for the evidence to follow that.
Yeah.
Because it sounds reasonable that may be.
It felt like it when we were looking through them, but I have to say I haven't done a detailed study, so it may just be my.
Sitting on the panel, it's an enormous amount of, if we can go much deeper with the smaller committees.
Yes.
And that's really helpful, but miss out on the bigger picture. I think perhaps look at the bigger picture and see if there is an argument,
And
a basis.
evidence, yeah.
That may be helpful.
Acceptable for us to take these two suggestions away and bring them back next week.
Great, yes, that's acceptable to you, Chair.
Yeah.
We do that.
Thank you, Town Clerk.
But the other issue was whether we want the grants committee to
Continue.
continue, and I think consensus is that we do.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Next item then is item 6, the climate change task group. To receive and note the climate change task group minutes from the 29th of January 2025.
And so, yes, is there any queries about the content? The accurate, it is for noting, please.
Any comments you want to make as chair?
I don't think so, I think it's self-explanatory.
Okay. So we note the minutes. Thank you. Item 7, quadrennial review of Parish Council allowances 2025 to 2029. God, that's looking ahead, isn't it? The East Kent Independent Joint Remuneration Panel is asking for input ahead of their next quadrennial review. Do we want to make any input? Town Clerk, do you want to?
Thank you, Chair. The letter stipulates that I must consult with all councillors, so this will go to the full council meeting next week. But in advance of that, it's whether you want to have a discussion or make a recommendation in respect of for the council to consider. But perhaps thinking about actually how the inflation over the last 4 years, and actually is £600. Are you financially out of pocket by being a councillor, being a town councillor, and how close to 600 come to actually covering what you're doing? The £600 comes to you automatically. You don't have to evidence it. But you shouldn't have to pay to be a councillor.
Am I right in thinking that it's fixed now at 10% of TDC allowance?
I'm not sure.
Is that the current?
No, so TDC allowance is less than that, less than 10 times.
Sorry?
No?
Don't know.
Less than 10 times.
As far as I'm concerned, we used to be here and got nothing. I'm not here to make money. £600 when you've got austerity all around the country and everything's increasing. I'm quite happy with the £600. Other people might feel differently, but it's up to them to talk about that. Money is a big issue in Ramsgate. There are deprived areas, and they see that all we're sitting around there earning. All councils, not just Ramsgate, they've got bad names. They don't see what we all get up to. That's the problem. Because there's so many other issues that's going on in their life. And I'll leave it at that.
I mean, I personally am quite happy with how it is. But do we want to tell the remuneration panel that?
Could we just leave the full council to make their
We
own?
can, yeah.
Yeah.
Should we do that? Leave it to the full council when everybody's here?
I'm just mindful it's fine for me on the allowance, but that may not be the same for other.
It's for everybody,
councillors.
yeah.
But we don't actually,
Sorry.
we don't actually touch it, do we? It just passes by.
Yeah, exactly.
As we pass it on to whichever section or whoever has asked us for help.
Oh, is this? Right,
So this is not the ward grants that you have. This is the money that comes into your bank account.
For being a councillor.
Yeah.
to cover all your expenses.
I'll just say one thing. It lets residents know that we are thinking about them. Because some people out there are having a hard time. They really are. And we're supposed to represent them. Represent them in our pockets, doesn't help them, does it?
Do you want to make a proposal other than we asked?
Well, I'd rather wait till all the councillors are here.
Okay.
And because it's not in my circumstances, other people's different.
So we have a proposal that we don't make a recommendation, but we ask full council for their opinion. Is that agreed?
Yeah.
Okay. Item 8 is the calendar arrangements for next year. Once again, I guess it's 8.1, it's to make a recommendation to council, is it? Have you looked at the proposed calendar and can we recommend it to council?
Thank you, Chair. So it's in May, at the annual council meeting, that you approve the schedule for the coming year. This is an opportunity to have a think about, is there anything fundamentally that is working, that isn't working? This schedule works for the officers, that's not a problem. We have had a problem this year with some of TDC's planning committee dates as per tonight. But by and large, is the schedule acceptable?
Yeah, it seems to try to avoid TDC meetings as far as we can. Do we know yet what TDC's calendar is? I don't think we do we?
No. So it's based on the assumption that TDC isn't making any significant rearrangements.
Can I just say, on Wednesday, I find that Wednesday is the best day. I know there's TDC doing it, but Wednesday's always been Wednesday here. I mean, even if people go to TDC, because they're twin hatters, we still probably got enough to carry a meeting to. And then
As we have tonight.
On that night, we can have a full council when we can.
So we're happy to recommend the town clerk's proposed calendar.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All those in favour? Thank you. And second part of that item is to receive a report from Dean regarding the climate change task group meetings and consider the question contained therein. I think it's whether we wish to continue.
Thank you, Chair. So it's whether climate change task group continues at all. But I think it actually, what I understand has been discussed with the chair of the group and Mr. Williams is actually that there's due to be quite a gap between the next meeting.
The end of March, the end of July.
Yeah, they're possibly not going to meet again until July. And so it suggested, do you want to consider allowing the existing chair to stay in post until the F&GP committee meets after May to decide whether the group continues, allowing progress and direction to continue uninterrupted, or allow the climate change task group to set a 4-month progress plan for officers to crack on with whilst the task group members whilst the remit of the group is considered in June, July.
My view, for what it's worth, it is that I think it's been a great success over the year, and I'm more than happy if they're willing for the chair to continue until we have the next F&GP meeting.
Yep. Yes. So if it's not broken, why fix it? If they're quite happy to do that, let them stay on it.
Are we?
Very happy to do that. The amount of focus I'd be like to give before the 1st of May to writing a 4-month action plan with Dean is probably quite limited, so it's probably more sensible to be doing it on those as we go along.
Proper continuity. Carry on.
So is that approved?
Yes.
Thank you. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, so we can resolve to...
Do I have to read that out?
I could just say, could you resolve to close the meeting?
Yeah, we need now to take officially to resolve to close the meeting so that we can deal with confidential items. So all those in favour? Thank you.